Why in the world would a bug-eyed, hook-nosed dork like Kash Patel be partying it up with the US men's hockey team after they won the gold medal? It seems completely weird that he would be in that room acting like a frat boy, wearing a US hockey sweater, wearing a gold medal, and chugging beer with the team. It seems completely out of place, doesn't it? It would be out of place, but when you really think about it, having Patel in that room makes all the sense in the world. Think about who Patel is. Kash Patel is the guy that is running interference for this regime that is infested with sex abusers, pedophiles, and rapists. Kash Patel is the guy who is running the cover up operation of the Epstein files ever being released. Kash Patel is the little rat weasel who has sworn up and down that there's nothing incriminating in those files to implicate anyone in the regime. And yet, at the same time, when we see those files released after weeks and months of foot dragging, everything's redacted. Kash Patel is that guy. And when you think about who he is as a person, he's a little toady that runs cover up operations for sexual predators. It makes sense that he's in the locker room with the men's hockey team. And here's why. For those paying attention, we know that both the NHL and all of the North American professional hockey leagues have an ongoing legacy of abuse that occurs within their ranks. And the only thing that's more common than the abuse that's happening in those leagues is the cover ups that are being run by the leagues themselves, their officials, their coaches, and so on. As a Chicago guy, I'm all too familiar with hockey scandals. The Chicago Blackhawks were mired in a hockey scandal where Chicago Blackhawks player Kyle Beach was assaulted by Brad Aldrich, and the NHL and the Blackhawks and any number of people ran all sorts of interference to cover up that abuse. So the pattern of behavior of professional sports leagues, but particularly the NHL and its affiliated leagues in North America running cover up operations for sex abuse is par for the course. And when you view it through that lens, it makes all the sense in the world that Kash Patel would be in that room. Because odds are, if anyone on that team is ever accused of any sort of sex abuse in the future, it's good to have the number of the FBI director in your back pocket. And when you really think about hockey as a sport, attorneys have noted that professional hockey leagues and their minor league affiliates have two things in common. They have a culture of hazing and a culture of silence that exists within it. So when you have an abusive environment, an abusive league, a league that encourages cover ups, and a league that encourages silence, sure sounds like a lot of the operation that Trump and Epstein were running for decades, doesn't it? And this isn't unique to just US hockey. Canadian hockey has its own track record of covering up abuse. When you think about sexual abuse and cover up, it's not limited to the US. Canada has its own problems. There's a long history of these sorts of activities being covered up across a number of Canadian leagues. The most recent scandal that we need to pay attention to is Hockey Canada and their junior players. In June of 2018, a woman accused Hockey Canada and several of their world junior team members, up to 8 members, of sexual assault. Now, the case was eventually settled, but this was another instance of the culture of minor and major league hockey and the type of people that play that sport. In fact, when you think about the history of abuse, hazing, and silence that exists within these hockey leagues, it's not surprising to learn that many of these hockey players are fully supportive of the current regime occupying the Oval Office. It makes absolute sense that these people, these players, would be supportive of a president who is associated with a decades long sex trafficking ring that has some of the world's most well known billionaires as active participants and enablers within the ring. It's par for the course. And when you think about it that way, it shouldn't be surprising at all why every single one of these players chuckled when they heard that the diapered orange dementia patient would be forced to invite the women's hockey team to celebrate their gold medal win. Otherwise, he would get impeached. This is part of the misogynistic and abusive culture that exists within professional sports in general, but in hockey in particular. And no one would be surprised to learn that when you ask Trump supporters what their favorite sports league is, more often than not, you'll hear that the NHL is their favorite sports league, mainly because it's made up of mostly white players. The fact that Kash Patel was in with the U.S. men's hockey team after winning the gold medal and celebrating as if he's part of the team, it makes all the sense in the world when you understand that both the regime and hockey in general, and U.S. hockey in particular, all play for the same team. They play for the team that consistently covers up abuse and denigrates women in the process.